Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, and our ongoing study in Perichoresis by Twombly. We're going to take a look at the first half of chapter 3, be pages 47 to 67. It'll give us the beginning of Christology, so it'll give us the first half of Christology. Let's begin with block 1, and Perichoresis. The natures of Christ were united without confusion as perichoresis through a stretch of doctrinal history, beginning with the Council of Chalcedon, 451 AD. Christ had two natures, human and divine, embodied in one personhood, as the Logos incarnate, possessing both human will and divine will, and human and divine operation. After Chalcedon, you had the three additional councils of Constantinople 553, Constantinople 681, and Nicaea 787. They focused on iconoclasm and Christology and addressed the monophysite controversy that posited that Christ had only one divine will, the monophysite heresy, which meant the absorption of the human nature into the divine. Possible resolutions followed. You had Leontius of Byzantium, who stated that only the divine nature had its own hypostasis, and Leontius of Jerusalem, who said that the pre-incarnate Logos was Christ's center of being, which held the two natures together. Eventually, we ended up with the resultant position held by the Byzantine Church. Maximus the Confessor stated that the two wills and two operations were held together by the incarnate Logos. The Sixth Council of Constantinople. You ended up with the following. Christ had two wills, two energias of operation, one common ousia essence. The natures were hypostatically united in the incarnate Christ. Will and action were located in the natures, not the person. The two united subjects acted as one. And that became the resultant Byzantine Christology. Then we move on to John of Damascus and his Christology in block 2. And for John of Damascus, identity and difference lie at the base of perichoresis. The natures of the Lord were mutually perichorine. And the divine nature pervades all things. The divine nature pervades all things. The divine nature is the controlling center of the mutual indwelling. The bond is based on the divine initiative. Priority is given to the divine component. So for John of Damascus, priority is given to the divine component. The divine nature indwells according to its choosing, but the divine nature remains unaffected by the body. But we have the question, what is the relation of suffering to the divine nature? The relation of suffering to the divine nature. There are two natures in the one composite person of the Logos, as well as two wills and two energias. John of Damascus took the Neo-Chalcedonian position, which is block 2, note 5. There is a distinction drawn between physis, nature, and hypostasis, or ousia essence. Ousia is the being that exists in itself. Physis is being that goes out of itself in specific differentiation. So that leaves us with the Byzantine Christology in block 1 and the John of Damascus Christology in block 2. And our conclusion is simply to state that it was absolutely necessary for a real incarnation of the divine Logos to secure salvation. That's the conclusion in block 3. So go to block 3, priority of the divine, which included the Logos serving of the person of the flesh. Logos as truly incarnate. Logos did not change his nature. He became hypostatically united to the intellectually animated flesh. He assumed human nature. So we're talking about the assumption of human nature. For John of Damascus, the Logos must be truly born and united to genuine humanity. A full and real humanity had to be embraced in order to be deified in theosis. Remember, the doctrine of theosis, or unification with the Godhead. A fully embraced humanity. Salvation of fallen humanity required the Logos to enter human reality, even begotten in the womb, after our own manner, for the sake of our salvation. So yes, we are being reminded that yes, the eternal Logos humbled himself, took on the form of a servant, entered into our humanity fully to secure our salvation. That is reinforced by John of Damascus, and correctly reinforced by John of Damascus. We absolutely have to recognize that the incarnate Logos is the one way to salvation, the one way, the truth, and the life to salvation. The incarnate Logos had to embrace real humanity. Well, we get a good look at what was going on in the Byzantine area with the Byzantine Church. There was great debate over the use of icons in the church. There was debate over that. Can we use icons in the church? Can we use religious art in the church or not? And there was also great debate over the two natures of Christ and how they were held together. And eventually they came to the conclusion they were held together by a one singular essence of the Logos. But then there were actualizations and differentiations of the natures as they were actualized out of the one essence. And so there was a real distinction drawn between ousia and phusis, even by John of Damascus. But the ultimate truth was that incarnation had to be real incarnation, a real embrace of humanity in order to secure salvation and theosis for humanity when Christ was resurrected and then ascended to the right hand of the Father. So it required the eternal Logos to embrace real humanity, and then the exalted Son of Man who had embraced real humanity was resurrected and then ascended to the right hand of the Father, and that ascension secures our eschatological theosis, the eschatology of our deification that really means unification. It really means the eschatological movement toward reunion with God the Father. So it's very much, of course, it's very much in tune with chapter 2, which dealt with the perichoresis of the Trinity, and now we look at the perichoresis of Christ, which is, of course, analogous. The two are very close, and that's why they reflect very similar concerns, that the two natures in Christ do not get confused. They remain distinct. They both function out of the same ousia essence. They have their own hypostasis actualization, and the doctrine of John of Damascus emphasizes the fact that incarnation had to be real, full embrace of real humanity. So very important that all of that was taken up in this teaching. If you go to block 1, note 5, we'll look at the Christology held by the Byzantine Church. Christ had two wills, two energias of operation, one common ousia essence. The natures were hypostatically united in the incarnate Logos. Will and action were located in the natures, not the person. The two united subjects acted as one. And then go to block 2, and we'll look at the Neo-Chalcedonian position of John of Damascus in Block 2, Note 5. He drew a distinction between physis nature and hypostasis or ousia essence. Ousia is being that exists in itself. Physis is being that goes out of itself in specific differentiation. And then Block 3, we learned, most importantly, Block 3, Note 4, salvation of fallen humanity required the Logos to enter human reality, even to the point of being begotten in the womb after our own manner for the sake of our eternal salvation. So it is exactly a precise analogy type doctrine of Christology that reflects what we learned in theology in chapter 2. So it gives us a great look at perichoresis being applied to Christology. And we will have a part B to this chapter. We broke up chapter 2 into 2 parts. We're going to break up chapter 3 into 2 parts. We've got another 20 pages to go, but basically we are looking at consistent theology that is based in the notion of perichoresis, and that perichoresis applies to theology and to Christology. It applies to theology and to Christology. And remember, our definition of perichoresis is a circular, triune, rotating enclosure that encloses all of creation. A circular, triune, rotating enclosure that encloses all of creation. And that was based on Acts 17:28, a circular, triune, rotating enclosure that encloses all of creation. And Christ also includes a hypostasis unity of two natures that are not mixed, that are not confused, that remain distinct. And so we get the great first half of Christology here. That's going to wrap up pages 47 to 67. And we're going to pick up chapter 3, part B in our next lesson, which will take us beginning at page 68.